evening, it's 9 o'clock in Djibouti. It's time for the English news. The top stories are meeting in the fight against human trafficking. In Uganda, the cost of El Nino living rain displaced 1,500 people countrywide.
Welcome to our newsroom. We are stunned to hear about the death of Haji Ibrahim Abdi Kahin, who died this morning at 11 a.m. in the clinical Sovereign Djibouti Medical Service. After hearing about the death of the late Ibrahim Abdi Kahin, the President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, is addressing his deepest condolences to the family and friends of the deceased. The Minister of Labor in charge of Administrative Reform, Abd Hussein Ahmed, is also addressing his sincere condolences full of emotions to the family of the deceased. May God welcome him in his eternal paradise. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un.
An important working meeting has been held today at the Court of Auditor. It's come after the meeting between the Minister of Justice, Mr. Ali Farah Assowe, and the U.S. Ambassador last September 28, which was a focus on the strengthening of the national legislation in the fight against the crime of human trafficking. Today's meeting has been co-chaired by the Minister of Justice, Mr. Ali Farah Assowe, and the regional representative of the United Nations Organization in the fight against a crime and drug, Jose Villa del Castillo. It has seen the participation of the Ambassador of the United States of America to Djibouti, Tom Kelly, the Minister of Labor, Mr. Abdi Hussein, as well as the Director General of the National Security, Mr. Hassan Saeed Khaire. The government of the United States of America grant a significant contribution of $500,000 US dollar. This money has been given to the UNODC for the realization of a 2-year-ago project entitled Strengthening of National Criminal Justice Systems Response to the Human Trafficking in Djibouti. In a close collaboration with the government of Djibouti, the UNODC will provide its support for the establishment of an orientation national system, as well as a mechanism for the collection of data and preparation of reports on the trafficking of human beings. These projects will also include activities to raise awareness on the main problem related to the trafficking of human beings, as well as the development and implementation on training courses covering the investigation focus on the victims and the prosecution. In a brief speech, the Minister of Justice, Mr. Ali Farah Assowe, has thanked on behalf of the government of the Republic of Djibouti the United States of America for their constant support, particularly in the fight against the crime of trafficking. He assured to the prominent personalities to the government's commitment to track down, apprehend, and prosecute the criminal, as well as bring them to the justice.
A new regional center of Durales Maritime Training has been inaugurated this morning by the Ministry of Equipment and Transport. This event has brought together several prominent personalities, including the Ambassador of the European Union, Joseph Silva, Ambassador of Japan to Djibouti, Tatsuo Are, the Director of Maritime Affairs, Ali Miro Shehim Dawood, the Director of the Regional Center for Maritime Training, Mina Hussein Douali, as well as several representatives of friendly countries and embassies. The creation of this center has been supported by the international institutions such as IOM, the European Union, and Japan. The Conduct Code of Djibouti, adopted in 2009 by 21 riparian states of the Western Indian Ocean, in the first regional initiative to fight against piracy and armed robbery at sea. The International Maritime Organization and the European Union have jointly supported the implementation of this code. In order to improve maritime security in the Western Indian Ocean, 4 axes of intervention have been identified in the Code of Conduct. It is the training, the sharing of information, the policy of the sea, as well as the strengthening of capacities.
For this occasion, the Ambassador of European Union, Joseph Villa, has indicated their presence in Dorale when at the same time the head of European and African states meet in Malta for an important topic concerning the migration. They are trying to find a way to prevent humanitarian tragedy caused by irregular flow of migration. Today, unfortunately, the Strait of the Bab al-Mandeb became a big grave war, say the ambassador. This is precisely the mission for which the Regional Maritime Training Center in Djibouti has been designed, with the support of the international community, especially from Japan and the European Union, say the ambassador. As for the Japanese ambassador, Tatsu Abe was very pleased the fact that he inaugurated today the Regional Center of Maritime Training, which he will play an important role in fights against piracy in the region of the Horn of Africa. He said, as a maritime nation, he has said that Japan focus on maintaining and developing of the Gubet Sea, and it is this optical. We are committed in the fight against piracy, which is a serious threat to the maritime file.
In his speech, the Minister of Equipment and Transport said that the construction of this center has been decided in the framework of the implementation of Djibouti Code of Conduct adopted on January 29, 2009. Thanks to the effort of all the countries that signed the Code of Conduct, supported by the initiative and program led by countries such as the European Union, the United States of America and Japan, and now piracy in the Gulf of Aden and in Western Indian Ocean has stopped. I would like to take this opportunity to thank on behalf of the government of the European Union for this program, which allowed creating a true regional capacity, he said, in maritime security training field, has concluded the minister.
Still in the national news, the Minister of National Education and Vocational Training, Dr. jtanglais12nov2015, has received today in his office a high-ranking delegation of the World Bank led by the representative Mrs. Zohra Fatouhi. The meeting took place in the presence of the principal officer of the MENFOP, including the Secretary General, Mr. Harun Umar Aden. During this meeting, the Minister of National Education, Dr. jtanglais12nov2015, and his close associate have had a fruitful and constructive exchange with the delegation of the World Bank on the way and mean to improve and raise the level of cooperation between the MENFOP and the World Bank. The MENFOP and the delegation of the World Bank are granted by elsewhere on the actual use of the assistance on the bank for the implementation of projects largely profitable for the MENFOP and for the country. The Minister of National Education and Vocational Training has welcomed the visit of this delegation of the World Bank and the excellent relation of cooperation between the MENFOP and the World Bank. He also emphasized that the importance of making profitable the assistance of the World Bank for the establishment of projects for the MENFOP. For its part, the representative of the World Bank did not miss to reiterate the support of the World Bank in advancing the activities of the MENFOP in the framework of improving the quality and access in the national education system.
A validation workshop of training activities for the trades of buildings, carpentry, wood, and aluminium took place this week at Kripen. This workshop has been facilitated by an expert, Mr. Thierry Kessen and Mar. It has brought together the heads of the Technical Education and Vocational Training General Directorate, the teachers of this specialty, and the pedagogical advisors. During the one-week workshop, the participants have reviewed the training activities in the framework of the preparation and establishment of the Professional Baccalaureate (Bac Pro) and the certificates for professional skills. The professionals, who came from dozens of companies in the sector of buildings, have made their contribution in remarks, but also expressed their need for skills in this sector. The remarks and conclusions of these discussions will be integrated in different training benchmarks developed by the Inspection of Civil Engineering.
Concerning the presidency in 2060, the Djiboutians are still asking the head of state to represent himself for a full mandate. At the next presidential election, they are all expressing out loud their voice in which and asking for the leadership of President Ghali to continue his ending effort to the future lead the people of a prosperous Djibouti. For this purpose, we have interviewed the civilian, the local leader, as well as the notable.
تقولي ورسة جروتان تقولي بور جروتيان لك عصار ورسة جروتان أبي من ليه أبان فرا ليه أبي من كان أشكره أبان فرا ملا كعم بالله يلا عم بالله كعم بالله هاي أنا نكالا بالفري هاي ثم ندهق حامها مستعد كهايو كار كهنيمي بارو مسو مرحوي أمة أمانة سوق الشيء قال حنو
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته يمي أحمد ميريتوي أنا عند نيتهيو ويش اسمه عمر الفرايتو مندا كلكه بريمي وش كويسة عند نيته دقنيسه هي النمو كباه يعني سيوونو لبوونو إنكي دقنا كينت كحولي اللي كيستريمت كعنقارته هاي ويش أنكع كارحيه إن شاء الله سيده فرايتو منداي يلي كان اللي بداي والله وصلوا personality solo president personality تكيكي شعبين كي جيبوتي النمو بارتيه نما personality شوكتي و personality باروها بيسيه يبليك هاي توش شعبين كي كاي لوك يبريه توه كان هاي سلامين كي كادو نلوك تبليه تنمي عمدانيتي ميشون قبك اللي مارحم عمدانيتي سنة حاجة بيحسيه تويسا دولة ترعتها تنمي ولهم ما يتامك هرعتها تامات يلي كايستورينا يلي كالي برينا توه كاي انكعنا هاي فيفيوجي
أنا سنتيكال بيس من بيس فكل يا بيجو هباب بابروي عند بابروي كذا بابروي هفكي كل يا با ويسرنا نانو دادرسين مانغو ويسرنا أبين مانغو هو كي تامبولي أهرا نانو بابر حنبلي مركا كذا كان نبري عندو كذو ويسرنا عمبلنا كذو مانغو جيت عمبلا ويسا جيت تيتا كذونا إحسان مه تبتدينا نو أواي كادو كان نبره بيسرنا أمان ده كان لهنا نوسيتيا برزانا نبره هو حرسوني والله كالا بدك سوني بيسرنا نانو نمل فيه بابور نيسيدي مبرزي أبني وحر نمل فيه بيسي فرق من جاينا دخل تكو حاجو تكو إنكي وبوابرينكي وبيسهينه كايت يهوي سرنا مبرزي أبني بوابر توهم كي كاي سبتا تحراي مبليزي ولي هبنو هو يسرنا ادنا نو تامتينكي
وعليكم السلام ورحمه الله وبركاته معن داي والله انا عبد موسى محمد انا هراكيك ميغاعي برولي يارغنا حبلاي وش قدري نو بارو هبا اني كبوكو كاكخيو معناها ما قلنا هبلون كني ما قوم ولي كاق عن بالله ها ما قوم كبوكو ددلاي اتو بسو مرحوتين كيني حلسنون كني هو يثبتها ولي كادو أيسوك ناس اللي نبليه ويثبتها كاكحنو دون كواي الحمد لله لوكس جوانيمي أوران حاجة ديكي عصبة كونترنه باهي بريمو سيكون دوكادو عصبة بامبوبنه باهي دون كو ولي أيسوك ناس منو كاك نبليه كلها نعم أكيد رزقان كاكروس نمن نعم.
It is with great sadness that we learned the death occurred yesterday evening to Abdullah Muhammad Yusuf in the Italian hospital in Belbela. The late Abdullah Muhammad Yusuf was 42 years old and he was door nursing staff. The deceased has left behind him a widow and 7 children. The late Abdullah Muhammad was the brother of a journalist presenter of religious emission Mr. Hassan Yusuf, and we are announcing the death to the family located in Dora Weiba and Tijara. The management and all the RTD staff address their sincere condolences to the family and the relative of the deceased. May the God grant him his eternal paradise. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un.
We have learned also with a sadness the death of Deqa Muhammad Haji Ismail, born in 1982. The deceased died on Monday night in the Italian hospital in Balbala, and she left behind her a child. We pray the Almighty to grant her in his eternal paradise. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. And now let's move now to the regional and international scene. Ethiopia has set up the first vehicle manufacturing and assembly plant. The country continues its path among the fastest country with 2 digits economic growth per year. More detail with Saeed Mohammed.
Ethiopia has opened its first vehicle manufacturing and assembly factory and plan to use local labor to produce automobiles for both local consumer and export. According to the Ministry of Transport, there were only 587,000 vehicles on the country's road in 2014. The country has now created an engine and battery manufacturing plant named the Bishoftu Automotive Industry. Some 480 miles north of the capital Addis Ababa that is expected to produce 10,000 to 20,000 vehicles per year using local labor. This is estimated will generate $96 million annually for the government. According to Ethiopian news agency, the factory has handed over 210 buses to the Addis Ababa City Bus Enterprise, while it is assembling 350 other buses upon order. It has also secured a contract from the United Nations to produce some armored vehicles for its peacekeeping mission in Africa. Emmanuel Tsagai told Ethiopia news agency, as Ethiopia finds itself on the path of fast-track economic growth, such industry will be vital to sustain the economy being registered. Head of the Ethiopian Power Engineering Industry General Manager Major Asafa Yohannes said the Mekelle engine manufacturing plant will be one of the key production facilities.
In the continental level in Uganda, concerning the cause of El Nino, heavy rains displace 1,500 people countrywide. The government has put aside over 30 billion shillings for emergencies this season tax El Nino weather. Let's listen to this report.
East Africa is bracing for the impact of El Nino. In Uganda, the government is preparing for massive flooding and landslides and already dealing with a cholera outbreak. People living in slums area are at particularly high risk. El Nino, a global climate phenomenon that occurs when surface temperature in the Pacific Ocean warms and redirects usual wind patterns, produce volatile weather patterns. Godfrey Mujimni, a manager at Uganda Meteorological Data Center, said rains will continue through what should be the dry season. Of course, our analysis was based on the evolution of El Nino, and we are still monitoring this El Nino because it has not decayed at all. It is still there. If El Nino continues to be strong, then we expect a somehow wet January and February, which are always dry months here in Uganda for us. In another area, of course, El Nino is associated with warm and dry conditions, but here in East Africa, El Nino is associated with enhanced rainfall, said Mujimni. Heavy rains have already led to a cholera outbreak that has killed 6 people in western Uganda, and residents in rural mountainous areas prone to mudslides have been asked to vacate their home. Large rain-induced mudslides in these areas in 2010 and 2011 left hundreds of people dead or missing. In Kampala, a number of wetland systems around the city are responsible for drainage during period of increased rainfall. However, both legal and illegal construction work have impeded the flows of water. A recent report by the World Bank blames weak regulatory control for the deterioration of the wetland, saying a lack of oversight has left Kampala's residents at risk. Peter Koju, a spokesman with the Kampala Capital City Authority, said they are working to combat this problem.
Related to the migration crisis, as of a latest summit of migration drew to a close, European Union and the African leaders signed an emergency trust fund agreement to assist the development of African nations. Bankrolled by the EU, the fund also aimed to encourage the countries to take back nationals who have migrated to Europe. Let's listen to this comment.
The EU and African leaders entered the second day of a summit to discuss the migrant crisis in the Maltese capital, Valletta. The European plan is to donate billions of euros to ease the security and economic pressure that force people to seek sanctuary in richer nations. And Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, the head of the African Union, blames elements within Europe for the crisis. The problem we are facing today is in part because some countries in Europe have taken a fortress approach. There is no part in the world that can be a fortress. We should be open to legal migration. As talk continue, Sweden and Slovenia became the latest EU nations to tighten borders. Mr. Anders Ingema, the Swedish Interior Minister, explained the idea is to not limit the numbers of asylum seekers, but to get better control over the flow of asylum seekers arriving in Sweden. close to 150,000 Africans have made the perilous journey across the Mediterranean this year.
This is it for this edition. Thanks for your attention and have a great evening.